Welcome back. She's the director of TV and film at Columbia Records and the vice president of Wellful at Sony Music. My guest today is Jelena Grozdanich. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Srdjan belated slava.
Oh, thank you so much.
How was it being back in town?
Oh my gosh. It's really nice right now because there's no snow and the weather's not too, it's not too intense. Living in Los Angeles, I've become such an LA weak girl where, I'm like, if it drops below 60, I am shivering beyond completely.
Yes.
But it's nice being back, good being with the family, good being home back in, Midwest.
And I found it very entertaining watching your stories and like you're preparing like the meals with everybody. And I laughed at my comment of like, how many people does it take to roll sadme? Is that the new, how many people does it take to roll in like the twist in a light bulb?
Oh, absolutely. And then if you do it, you're still going to get the comment of, oh, you rolled a bomb, meaning that's way too big.
Yeah.
So and you're still going to have to redo it. And so, my grandmother's 97 years old and Baba Olga is the best. Yeah, I'm very lucky.
Congrats.
Thank you. I'm from an amazing line of strong women.
I was going to say, y'all got some good genes.
Oh, yeah. And she is still standing, sitting, laughing, talking.
Does she drive?
Oh. Absolutely not.
I know some 90-year-olds that drive still.
We should not be doing that.
So what is the thing that you look forward to the most when it comes to Slava?
I think the thing I look forward to the most when it comes to Slava is the food that I don't typically have access to, because nothing is better than just that warm, home-cooked meal of the sarma. We had 4 different types of potatoes on the table. I don't think anything was green until finally someone brought some green beans. So I was like, oh, thank God. Like, I could use something green because, again, health is super important to me. But somehow, Baba Olga's 97 years old. So I'm like, okay, someone's doing something right. So I guess I'm just going to follow that diet and see what happens.
Totally. But what was interesting, usually Sveti Nikola is like a vegan cuisine. Where are you from?
We should be posting while we do it, but we just simply don't. And then when I watch Baba Olga eat kaimak, I'm like, okay, if she can do it, I can.
Yeah, like if God's not going to go after her, I'm good.
Exactly. And so, and that's just such a popular slava, and it's hard to just do all the, I was vegan for a portion of my life, so it's easy for me to do no meat, no dairy, but I'm like, if I'm coming home, I want sarma, I want everything.
Go big or go home.
Exactly.
Where are you from over there?
Yeah, so I'm from Munster, Indiana. Okay. So I was technically born in Chicago, lived a few years in Griffith, Indiana, and then moved to Munster and lived my entire life there until I went to school. I spent 1 year at Indiana University with me and everybody else from Indiana. And then I went over and moved to Los Angeles and finished out school at the University of Southern California.
Did you ever do folklore as a kid?
Sure did.
Okay, so what church were you affiliated with?
St. George.
St. George?
Cherville.
Yeah. Okay, I was going to say, I dated some chick from Munster, but she was 114.
Yeah, no, I was there. I did folklore from 3 to probably 16, 17, 18.
Damn.
So yeah, and it was so much fun, and I every now and then when you hear the music, you're just like, can I do this again? I know, exactly. And so I'm like, when I think about now the cardio work that I do, I'm like, God, I was doing a lot of cardio back then.
Oh,
so,
yes. With the pony braid and like the potato sack.
Oh, and the noshna, you're just sweating in the wool, and you're just happy to be there.
Right.
So.
Do you miss those days at all?
I do. I miss being around such a close-knit community, and it was so fun to almost live like that Hannah Montana life. Your friends are at soccer camp in the summer, out at the parties at Saturday night, and you're at a Zabav on a Saturday night, and you're at Serbian camp in Libertyville.
You did that?
I sure did.
Oh, my parents would threaten me to send me out there because I didn't want to do it.
Oh, it was the best. And it was just so much fun, again, to just go and be with these people who look like you, sound like you, act like you. There was just there's nothing else like it.
Were you one of those counselors eventually or no?
No, I was not. There was a period in my teenage years where I was like, I don't want to do any of this. I want to go to my, the summer camp with all my friends. And my parents gave me a moment. They're like, okay, do what you want. And then, once I got into my late 20s, early 30s, I kind of started to slowly come back to, my roots and my heritage and my culture. And I was like, how special it is to be, from something so unique and so different. So
in LA, how do you keep in touch with your Serbian culture at all? I know it's very, very limited. I have a cousin who lives out there, and she even complains. And she's grateful when she found out a deli from over here actually ships.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah, so she takes advantage of that. So how do you stay connected?
Well, funny enough, where I was living originally, I was there for about 9 years. I lived a mile away from a restaurant called Aroma Cafe.
I've heard of it.
I'm going to shout out Aroma Cafe right now.
Shout out to Aroma.
Shout out Aroma Cafe, but not the Aroma Cafe that everyone else knows in LA. Aroma Cafe is in a little tiny strip mall, and it has all the groceries you can need, the 5 different types of Ivar.
Weren't they on BuzzFeed at one point with one of the Try Guys?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so, I mean, it has everything you could want. And so I lived about a mile away from there. So even though I lived a mile from there, my mother would still ship me Ivar.
Yes.
And I'm like, I live a mile away from the best Balkan place in LA. But it's different, you know, your Ivar back home is always going to be better.
Totally.
So I did that, and then there's a church in Alhambra that I go to. So when I do feel,
was that St. Gabriel?
No, so there's one in San Gabriel. The one I go to in Alhambra is St. Stephen's. Yes. Oh, yeah. So every now and then, when I'm really feeling, the urge, I will make my move there. So I try to bring my friends also to come for. They have a Serb Fest once a year, so I try to bring them to that.
Are you one of those that like just appears at Christmas and Easter?
I try to be a little better than that, but try is the key word. But now, but when I was in LA, I would really do that a lot. And also going to USC, we had a lot of basketball players who were Serbian. So I became like the unofficial tour guide for all Serbian people there. Nice. So I would take them to church and we'd take them to Aroma. And yeah, I just try to do my best. And I also was really lucky when I first started my job at Sony Music. My first day there, I got introduced to somebody, and a lovely gentleman named Pace, and he shook my hand. He's like, Jelena, nice to meet you. And I said, okay, you know how to say my name. How do you know that? Where are you from? And he's like, my wife is Serbian. And I was like, oh, the best. So then I had someone there who, the joke is that Pace was more Serbian than I was. He spoke the language, he really studied it, and I was like, I learned from him. So he was my mentor in the workspace and then also in the Serbian world practically.
How in tune are you with the music? Did you grow up listening to it? Obviously you're in folk and stuff like that, but like any artists that come to mind?
I mean, the one that comes to mind, Twins.
Oh my God! Yeah. So, unlock the box in my head.
I'm just thinking of when my Teta Sonia would drive us in her tan and leather Infinity, and she would drive us to folklore practice. Exactly. And every time you got in that car was always good Serbian music. Yeah. And so now it's like when you hear it, and the funny thing is I don't really speak the language. It's not something I picked up growing up.
Yeah, but you got muscle memory. So
but I still know all the words to all the songs. Every time I go into choir at church, somehow know it all. So it's really special.
Nice. Growing up, did you know what you wanted to be?
I really didn't. So, I always kind of grew up wanting to do something in the creative space, but I didn't know what that was. Honestly, when I was a kid, like many other kids, I'm like, I'm going to be an actress. I'm going to be a star. Right. And then I realized, I did a bunch of stuff on stage and I did a lot of theater, and I kind of realized like, I don't want to be on the stage necessarily, and the other thing I realized is I don't want to be somebody else. I want to be myself.
Right.
And so with that, I actually then started working in politics when I was in high school and in college. I did a lot of things in the political space. And then I realized then shortly after, I'm like, oh, I don't want to work in politics, but I still want to do something where I get to support people and support creatives. And that's kind of how I landed in the job that I'm at now.
Right.
So I'm so lucky. I work for one of the greatest, it's the oldest record label in the recorded music industry, 135 plus years. And I get to support creative people to make their art and to make money from their art, which is so unique and so special.
Totally. So in college, did you take specific classes to help you, gain background knowledge and obviously the skills and all that when it comes to music business?
Yeah. So luckily at the University of Southern California, they have an amazing music industry program, which combines, business classes, communication classes, technical music classes. So you really have a well-rounded world to jump into. And because music is such a unique, different space, especially on the business side of stuff, lots of different legal stuff, lots of different, ways to deal with creatives, because I'm sure as a creative yourself, we know how difficult creatives can be.
It's hard out here for a pimp, let me tell you.
It is hard to be a creative, and it's hard to, get them to gather their thoughts and think with a business mindset. So luckily at USC, they had an amazing music program, so I got to study that and take my classes, and then from there, there's all these different worlds where it's like you can go into radio work, you can go into promotions work and marketing and business affairs and global music stuff. So I landed in something what we call licensing, because I had one of my first internships, and a gentleman asked me, he said, how do you discover music? And back then I said, watching TV shows, because again, growing up in Northwest Indiana, it's not like kids in LA and New York where you could just pop to a concert venue and see anything anytime.
Right.
Where, my choices were watching television, whatever was on B96, or whatever was on sale at Borders. So those are my three choices. Throwing it back, right?
Yes.
So we'd go to the Borders, and whatever CDs were on display, that's what you got to choose from.
Right.
So I got really lucky where I said that I loved finding music from TV shows, and the gentleman who I was working for said, well, there's a whole part of the industry that does that. It's called licensing, where your job is to help the music that's signed to a label or to a publisher who represents songwriters and producers and get that music placed in multimedia. And I said, perfect. That's exactly what I want to do.
Was that the first thing you did when you went through the doors of Sony, or were there things before Sony that happened, in between college and Sony, or is it just the program you sort of slipped in there and went up the ranks?
So funny enough, my first internship was at a publishing company called Warner Chappell, and there I was an intern in what we called production music, and it was kind of a catch-all. I did a lot of different things, and that's when I met that mentor who said, I think this is what you're going to be great at, and I said, sign me up. And from there, all my internships were kind of tailored in that film and television space. I worked I did some stuff for VH1, I did some stuff at NBC Universal, and it was all within film and television, the music space. And then I actually, if I recall right, I interviewed for my job on a Thursday with Sony. I walked across the stage on a Friday, and I started my job shortly thereafter, just a week or two after, and I've been there ever since. So going on almost 10 years.
Nice. Yeah. So is part of your job actually selecting what songs make it to certain shows and movies? Do you feel out the vibe of the song, this would fit better for this scene or something like that? Does it go that deep?
A little bit. So my job is actually more about the selling of the artists that are signed to Columbia Records to get their music placed into that. But a lot of that job is a music supervisor who's responsible for that part of the business, where they said, hey, we're the ones who are in charge of really picking the music, but they'll come to us and they'll say, hey, we are working on a TV show, we have this amount of money for the show, this is what the scene is like, what artists do you have that would work for this, that would, what we say, clear fast, meaning because we have to, my job is to get the permission from the managers, the artist representatives, or sometimes the artists themselves, depending on what the deal structure is. And so oftentimes I do have my hand in that creative stuff, which is a ton of fun.
What other things come with that job? Because I know that you're also a vice president of Wellful of Sony Music. So tell me a little bit about that.
So Wellful is our talent advisory group, which is what the formal title of it is. So Wellful is a group that we formed at the top of the pandemic, which it's employees who are looking to create a healthy environment in the workspace. So we support programming for physical health, mental health, emotional, and financial health. And mental and physical health is such an important part of my daily living experience that it's an honor to get to bring that back to Sony Music. And so my job is, there it's a total volunteer job. So it's on top of all the other things I do in my life. And it's a blessing to do, because making creatives money is really important to me, and keeping people healthy and well is the second part of what is super important in my life. So we create programs and we do things. We'll do workout classes together, or we'll do breathwork sessions. We'll have a financial advisor come on board and talk about your finances in a real layman's terms, because so often things just go right over our heads. So it's really important to just keep people healthy and well. And even this extends also to our artists as well, because in order to make good music, you have to be super present and to think. I just watched the Taylor Swift documentary the other day, and she's performing for 3+ hours. You gotta be healthy and well to do that. You can't just be lazy and not taking care of your brain and body.
Doing drugs.
Exactly. And but there are those cases of the rock stars of the past who are somehow still doing it, and you're like,
and there's somewhat alive still to this day.
We need to study their brains. When they pass, we need to study them.
They're fueled by cocaine, probably.
I don't know how they do it.
What did your family think of you going, quote unquote, abroad into a whole different state and going off on your own?
So I am very lucky that my parents are not the total stereotypical Balkan parents, where they're just, total blessing, where, they were just stay home, be within a 30-mile radius, go to IU, stay at IU so we can visit you every weekend.
Exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But
visit you? No, you come home.
They're just so funny. But no, my parents were very much just hey, we worked hard so you can do whatever it is that you want. And so they really encouraged both. My sister also went to the University of Southern Cal. They encouraged both of us to say, hey, go out, do whatever you want, just make sure you find a way to make a living doing what you want to do. And they didn't care what we did so long as we could do it. And they're so lucky that, my sister is working, she's been with her company for 12 years, and
Nice.
I do what I do, and they say, they're really proud of us. And so I'm really lucky that, I think what makes them really good Balkan parents is that they just really wanted to ensure we were focused on our studies. So when growing up, oh my gosh, like I remember just taking all those honors and AP classes and just doing the best that I could, but I was not a total book smart kind of gal.
Oh. When I had an AP class, I dropped in a second.
Yeah.
I'm like, senior year, I'm not about to do this.
Yeah, and I'm very lucky that they did push me hard towards, being smart, but it wasn't necessarily that, because something that I know we've discussed, and I'll discuss with my friends, that everybody thinks the only jobs in Balkan world are doctor, lawyer, nurse if you're a girl.
Oh,
so,
okay, yeah.
I mean, ask how many nurse friends do you have that are Balkan?
My cousin is a nurse.
And
pharmacy is a big one too.
Yeah, and again, I am so glad that there are people who do that, but I knew, like, I simply couldn't. And I'm like, but I can do, there's so much other stuff that you can do in this world. And so the way that I can describe what I do to people, I say I work in business, kind of like my cousin, but just different.
Right.
That's how I base it, where I'm just like, I do business.
It's scary to go down a route that hasn't been necessarily proven by people I know.
Yeah.
And there's no one for me to ask. How did you choose the path you wanted to go down? Like, were you sure that music business was it?
I think, I'm gonna sound so LA, but I think the path really chose me.
Okay.
In the sense that it just kind of, it cleared, like the path just felt clear, and the lane just felt open for me. Exactly. Like it literally, and all the opportunities that came to me really came to me. It's not that I just like lucked into a lot of stuff, but I worked hard, and I just was like, I can't fathom spending moments of my life not doing this type of work. I don't even know what it would be like just to, not to say that I sit behind a desk 9 to 5, well, kind of 9 to 5-ish, but I sit behind a desk I sit behind a desk for a good amount of hours a day, but part of my job is to also, I go out to shows late at night. So, I'd have to take my clients out to get them excited about the music, and then I'm at a show from 9 o'clock till 1 in the morning.
Oh, you have to schmooze these people too?
Oh, all the time. Oh. I'm in sales. So I do sales, marketing, and legal. I do it all.
Oh, damn.
So, which is...
Do you have people under you?
I do. I have an amazing...
Damn, how the fuck are you doing it all?
I'm on an amazing team. Yeah, I'm on an amazing team at Columbia Records, and we really work so well together, and we all have our strengths, and there's no weaknesses on my team. We're all just so strong. And then I've also been in charge of my intern program at Sony for the last 10 years since I first started. So, and part of what I do is I really love to mentor young people, because, it's so important to show people, like Serbian or not Serbian, that, hey, like there is a way to do this business, and there's a way to do something that you love to do, and to be close to the work you love to do. Like, a lot of people can do sales and they're selling stuff, but I'm selling music and I'm selling people. Like, I love selling creative work, and I love being able to sell people, hey, this is someone's heart and soul that is in a written, recorded piece of music. Use this, and here's why. So like, it's important for me to understand directly from the artist's perspective. So I've developed relationships with the artists and with their teams to say, hey, tell me about this story and this music. And then my job is to, present that to the networks and the producers and the directors and music supervisors I work with, because they also love music. We all do this job because we love music, and I live for it, I breathe it, I bleed it. It's everything to me.
Totally. Well, you talk music and stretching, right?
Yes.
And I saw on your social media that you're starting a new movement, literally, with The Secret LA.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So The Secret LA is something that it's technical third year doing it, which is just so crazy.
Nice.
But what happened was, pre-pandemic, I candidly was just like in a kind of a dark place in my life, where I just was really experiencing a lot of depression and anxiety, and there's so many ways to alleviate that, and one of those ways to do it for free is movement and eating better. And so I one day I decided I did a 30-day challenge where I put myself on Instagram and said, hey, friends of Instagram, I'm gonna work out for 30 days straight, and I'm gonna post about it every single day to hold myself accountable. And I did that, and then I felt so much better, and I go, oh wait, that's how you feel better. Like, you just move your body, drink a bunch of water, eat, sleep, meditate, stretch,
It seems so simple, but
it's so
getting
simple.
there.
And so then,
difficult.
so I got really into fitness. And so at the top of the pandemic, when everything was shut down and everyone was alone, one of my friends said, hey, like, we know you really like to work out. Would you ever lead a workout class for us virtually so we could all hang out? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? And never led a workout class in my life. I've been an active person, a dancer my whole life, but never in a structured format like that. And then I just started to build these workout classes, and then one thing led to another, where some friends of friends would see it and they said, hey, can I take the class? I'm like, yeah, here's the link, take it. And then it just kind of snowballed into its own thing. Yeah. And then I have some friends who have some notoriety and fame on the internet, and they would post about it, and then all of a sudden I have strangers from Dubai and Japan and Ireland and awesome. Mexico. Yeah.
Well, how do you like get the time zones together?
It's on my time. It's on my time, but I have classes on demand. But yeah, it was just whatever my time. And because I do it, the most important thing about The Secret LA is that, so I got into some incredible and crazy shape, and people would ask, what's the secret? And I would say the secret to the secret is there is no secret. And part of that is that it's for free too. I don't charge.
You do it for free?
I do. So not only do I do it for free, I would raise money for different charitable organizations that are meaningful both to myself or to my community. And during the pandemic, I would say, hey, this week we're going to work with this charity. If you'd like to donate, please donate. And, we'll make sure you'll get all the receipts, and then we're going to donate it to this organization. Or, when there were important things happening during the pandemic that really needed the attention and awareness, and we would say, hey, this is what we're going to focus on. Or I would say to my community, hey, what do you guys want to focus on? What's an organization that means something to you? Because I would love to bring attention to that.
Totally.
So that has been something so special of what I do, because it's, I am very lucky that I have an amazing corporate cushy job. And I want people to not feel like they can't access movement, because it's expensive. Inflation is intense right now.
Tell me about it.
And, I, of course, I was talking with my cousin yesterday where she's like, oh, body weight workout stuff doesn't work for me. And I said, no problem. But here's an opportunity space where if you just need something, what I offer, I say it's for everybody and everybody, meaning it's for everybody and everybody can do it. So
nice. Yeah. Well, it's almost like you're doing double duty. You would have been stretching and moving anyway.
Exactly.
Now you just have more of an audience.
Exactly. And it's just really, it's about holding that space for people and creating that safe container for people to move from their bedroom. All you need is the mat. I do it for 30 minutes. I do it in the morning, and I say, come in, move your body, and then leave. And you have the rest of your day.
So tell me what your healthy lifestyle routine is day to day, because I know it's a daunting challenge to break old habits and try new ones. I know from my own experience of the things I changed in my life. So I'm wondering what you do day to day to keep you healthy.
Yeah.
Aside from the movement.
Yeah, I mean, everyone talks about something called habit stacking. So it's starting with one small thing, and then once you feel comfortable with that habit that's impressed upon you, then you add from there. And so something that for a long time was a non-negotiable for me, and still is to a point, is meditation. And meditation can be very daunting, because so many people think it has to be this 20-minute sit down, hands up to the sky and saying Om and doing this stuff. And that's totally one form, but there's so many different ways to do it. A lot of people, I tell them, just get outside and walk. And that can be a meditative experience, or if you like to cook, that's a meditative experience. But breath work is also really important, and you can do that for 5 minutes. You can do it for 3 minutes. You can do it only for a few minutes, and it's still going to make a big impact. So I meditate every single day in some way, shape, or form. Some days it's a 10-minute meditation. Some days it's a 2-minute meditation. Some days it's a 30-minute meditation. Whatever I have, but I don't tell myself if I don't do it for X amount of time, I'm a failure. That's something that people really get tripped up on. That is really important to me. I am not a gallon challenge girl, where people, a gallon challenge is where people, let's say you have to drink a gallon of water. And I'm like,
who said that?
Well, so many wellness people. And that's great. Maybe there's some science behind that, but science is great, but I'm just going to do what works best for me. So I'm just I drink as much water as I possibly can. I meditate, I walk, I move my body in some capacity. And I mean, that's really my daily wellness stuff. And it's also being kind to people. So I try to make some kind of, I try to make some kind of effort genuinely. If I don't feel genuine to the moment, then I just don't do it. But try to compliment someone on something. If they're walking by and you're like, hey, I like your pants, or you're in the elevator, and nothing bothers me more than a silent elevator.
Ooh,
you're just
that's an awkward one.
It's fine, but if you have the chance to make a little laugh or say something, just to be oh, long day, right? just nice to say something because you're sharing that space with people. So like, why not create a kind, wonderful, warm, loving space, you know?
Right. Well, the farthest I've gone is like, what floor?
Oh, I'm always just like, what floor and what's on that floor?
Yeah.
So I am a very curious person.
So taking all of this into account, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What's the goal? Because director is pretty top tier, and vice president, like, you're right there.
Yeah.
But where do you see yourself going from here?
You know, I wear 2 watches because I like to say time is a construct.
Oh. All right, Flavor Flav.
Very much, yeah. Funny fact, sometimes when I get bored, I watch reruns of Flavor of Love. Iconic. Reality television.
I don't know many people that do that. Like
reality television is some of the highest caliber of programming I've ever seen.
Celeb reality is where it's at.
It's iconic. So one of my internships, I worked at VH1 at the time. So when my boss then was in charge of Rock of Love, which is another
equally fantastic.
Yes. So yeah, celebrity programming is just wonderful because I love watching real people be real or elevated.
Justice for Brandy C on Rock of Love.
Incredible. So you were asking me where I see myself in 5 years. I don't know because...
You're riding the wave.
Yeah, because 5 years ago, I don't know if I would have seen... I definitely wouldn't have seen myself being healthy, well, doing all these extra things in my life.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to see myself continuing to be on the path that I'm meant to be on. So maybe it is still in the music space and still incorporating wellness into it and making sure that I'm creating the path and opportunity for as many people who are underrepresented and don't have the same privilege that I have been so luckily granted, and I just want to continue to do it. I don't want to necessarily, I'm not about climbing the corporate ladder. I think, I want to rise up in whatever sense that is. So
have you ever thought of doing like music management, like managing artists and stuff like that?
Oh, that is a tough business.
Yeah, that's a different breed.
Yeah, it's a different breed. And, I think what I love about what I do is that I get to work with many different types of musicians. Where music management, you're really kind of
stuck with
championing that one person, and then, your job is reliant upon their job. And I'm so, the people who do it, I
God bless them.
Deeply, deeply respect. But for me, probably not so much.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
It was great to get an insight on the music biz because I don't know of anyone that's involved in it whatsoever, in America at least. Tell everyone where they can reach out to you if they have any questions.
Yeah, so you can reach out to me at my Instagram is jelena.wave.
Genius.
It's, yes, W-A-V.
Someone has .mp3, I'm sure.
I'm sure, yeah. So jelena.wave. Wave is a music format, a file format. And then you can also find me on The Secret LA, secret.la. My website is www.thesecret.la. And then my Instagram is thesecret.la. LinkedIn, Facebook, well, actually not Facebook, it's 2023.
Excuse me.
So I use Facebook for birthdays
I'm
and
offended.
That's it. Oh, Facebook Marketplace?
That's where the parents
great for
are
furniture. Not my parents, thank goodness.
Like all the babe are there, the moms are there,
yes.
And they talk amongst each other. So if you want news to travel fast, you
go on
there.
Facebook, yes.
Yes, because I hosted a film fest recently and I posted a picture of me and the co-host, right? And I had people calling my mom like, who is this? Like, or like, is this your son? Is that his girlfriend?
Oh, yeah.
And then it just went down the list.
Yeah, there's always a ton of questions with social media. And, I try to say I take social media with a grain of salt. I try to use it for fun. I try to be authentic and genuine because nothing matters. It's all fun and dandy. And we just all have to be good, kind people. Simple as that.
Totally. Well, thanks again for coming.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Stick around because it's episode 2 of my animated series, Familiar Non. Stay tuned.